They said I was wasting my life waiting tables. I was actually learning how to own the restaurant. Part 1. When your name is a joke, until it's on the deed. I was 28, broke, and invisible. I worked double shifts at a mid-tier restaurant in downtown Boston, the kind of place where the wine list tried too hard and the customers tipped too little. I memorized orders like poetry, smiled through wrist pain, took abuse like it was seasoning in the soup of my life. People don't really see waitresses. They see uniforms and service, except when they want to mock us. I remember this one night. It was a Friday, stormy outside. The restaurant was packed. I was carrying a tray with 4 full steaks and 2 bottles of wine when my ex, Jason, walked in with a table of loud friends. He saw me and smirked. He turned to his friend, loud enough for me to hear, and said, "Told you she'd still be stuck here?" Then louder, "Hey Liv, still living the dream?" I didn't flinch, but inside I folded. Later that shift, I spilled soup on my apron and had to change in the utility closet. I remember looking in the mirror, wiping my face with a napkin, and whispering to myself, "This isn't forever. This isn't all there is." But part of me didn't believe it anymore. Home was worse. I lived in a studio the size of a rich person's walk-in closet. The heating broke every other week. I had 2 roommates, cockroaches. Every morning, I'd rehearse quitting. Every night, I'd wake up in a panic, wondering how long until I lost even this. I was tired of fighting just to survive. Then came the moment. One of the regulars, an old man named Mr. Callahan, came in like always, but this time he brought someone with him, his granddaughter, Claire. They sat at my section. I brought their drinks with the usual smile. And as I turned to leave, I heard Claire whisper, "Why is someone like her still working here?" Mr. Callahan said nothing, just watched me the rest of the night with the kind of gaze that saw something deeper. When I brought the check, he tucked in a business card. "Come by my office tomorrow," he said. "You're smarter than this place." I almost didn't go, but desperation is a loud motivator. Next morning, I took the bus across town, wearing my cleanest blouse and a borrowed pair of heels. His office was nothing fancy, just a modest real estate firm, but to me, it looked like the front door to another life. He offered me a part-time assistant job. "Learn the business," he said. "Stay curious, keep your ears open." I worked weekdays at his office, nights and weekends at the restaurant. No social life, no sleep. Just hunger, the kind you can't feed with food. Claire, his granddaughter, didn't like me. She thought I was a charity case. Maybe I was. But one thing I wasn't, unteachable. I soaked up everything. Lease contracts, renovation budgets, negotiation tactics. I asked too many questions, took too many notes, and volunteered for every ugly job. I once spent 3 weeks in a rat-infested building just to audit tenant complaints. I wanted to know everything. And Mr. Callahan, he noticed. 3 years passed, Mr. Callahan retired and left the company to Claire. She called me into her office on her first day. She wore a sleek suit and a fake smile. "Olivia," she said, "we're moving in a different direction. You're smart, but you're not executive material. You're firing me?" She gave a faux sympathetic shrug. "You'll land on your feet. Maybe the restaurant's hiring again." She actually laughed. That night, I walked home in the rain with no umbrella, just memories and rage, the humiliation, the sarcasm, the pity. It was the final spark I needed, and that's when I made the decision, I'm never working for anyone again. Part 2. I didn't build a business. I built a war machine. I didn't have capital. I didn't have contacts. But I had something none of them did, absolute resolve. That night after Claire fired me, I stayed up until sunrise researching small business loans, commercial property auctions, and distressed assets in bad zip codes. I drank bitter coffee and raged like it was fuel. I remembered how Mr. Callahan used to say, "The city's forgotten buildings are just sleeping giants. Wake them up and they'll feed you for life." So I decided to become a giant slayer. 6 months. That's how long it took me to gather every penny I had, borrow from every desperate corner of the earth, and put in a bid on a crumbling diner in a dying neighborhood. People laughed. Even the realtor chuckled when I signed the papers. "It's a graveyard, sweetheart." "Maybe," I said, "but now it's my graveyard." I lived in the back room. No heating, broken windows, no working stove. I slept next to the freezer, wrote business plans on the back of old menus, and made ramen with a hot plate. I fixed toilets by watching YouTube. I mopped floors until 2 a.m. and painted walls myself. I hired 3 people, all formerly incarcerated, all rejected by everyone else. We rebuilt from nothing together. And then, people started coming. First for the food, then for the vibe, then for the story. A local journalist ran a piece on me. From waitress to owner, the woman bringing back Boston's broken blocks. That's when the investors called. I said no, every time. If I could build one, I could build 5, on my terms. By 32, I owned 4 restaurants, all in neighborhoods no one believed in, all packed, all profitable. I didn't just feed people, I hired the invisible. Former waitresses, rejected cooks, teens from group homes, no uniforms, just heart. Then came the call that made me pause. Hi, this is Madison Carter from Elle Business. We'd love to do a profile on you. Apparently, I'd become a local mogul. I laughed, hard, but I said yes. The article dropped like lightning. Next day, I got a call from a broker. One of the buildings near your first location is going up for sale. Owner's desperate. You could buy it under market. I asked for the address. He read it out, and I froze. It was the restaurant I used to work at, the same one where Jason mocked me, where Claire once dined in pearls, where I bled sweat and tears for minimum wage. Buy it, I said. Whatever the cost. 1 month later, I stood outside with the keys in my hand. Same door, same tiles, same smell. But everything else? Mine. I walked through the kitchen, touched the metal prep tables where I used to hide my tears. I opened the office drawer, found a faded note I'd scribbled to myself once. This isn't forever. I smiled. No, it wasn't. 3 weeks later, I reopened it. Not as a restaurant, as a community business school. Free for anyone from underserved neighborhoods. I named it Second Shot. Guess who showed up on opening day? Jason, wearing a cheap suit and a face full of discomfort. He looked at the banner, then at me. Olivia, he looked stunned. This is yours? I tilted my head. Didn't you say I'd be stuck waiting tables forever? He tried to laugh. Come on, I was young and stupid. And you stayed that way, I said, not smiling. 2 days later, I got an application from his wife. For an admin position. I hired her, paid her well, treated her with kindness. But every Friday, when she walked past my office to clock out, I saw the flicker of shame in her eyes. I didn't need revenge. This was better. Part 3. When they come back knocking, success is loud, but envy is louder. The bigger I got, the more ghosts came crawling back. Ex-friends who once laughed at my cheap shoes suddenly DM'd me things like, "So proud of you, girl. We should totally catch up sometime." People who cut me off at my lowest now posted my articles with captions like, "Knew she was destined for greatness." They didn't know me. They knew a version of me they helped bury. Even my mother, who once told me, "You'll never make anything of yourself waiting on tables," called one day, voice soft and slippery. "I saw you in the papers. Maybe we could talk." I said I was busy. I was busy healing. There's something surreal about being invited to galas where the food is served by people wearing the same apron you once cried into. I always tipped more than I could afford. I always looked them in the eye. Because I remember what it was like to be ignored, to feel less than, to be seen only as someone else's convenience. And then came the full circle. The Boston Business League held its annual citywide entrepreneurship panel. One of the keynote speakers cancelled last minute. Guess who they called to replace her? Claire. But she'd just been caught in a lawsuit over fraud in her company's finances. Bad PR. Very bad. So the organizers scrambled. One of them found my name through mutual contacts and said, "You've got a great story. Would you be our headliner?" I almost said no. But then I thought about the 28-year-old me, broke, invisible, and full of fire. She deserved this moment. I walked onto the stage in a red-tailored suit, not for power, for memory. My first uniform had been red, grease-stained, cheap polyester, now cashmere and steel. I started the speech like this. 5 years ago, I was serving breadsticks at a place that didn't remember my name. Today, I hire the managers of places just like it. Laughter. Then silence. Then a standing ovation. After the event, a woman in heels and regret walked toward me. Claire, she'd aged 10 years in 2. "Olivia," she said, eyes damp, smile tight. "You look amazing." "Thank you. I was wrong about you." I let that sit for a moment. Then I smiled, genuinely this time. I know. She fumbled with her purse. If you ever need a consultant. I placed a hand on her shoulder. Claire, I'm not hiring. I'm teaching now. Because that's what came next. I took what I'd built, the money, the clout, the scars, and turned it into something no one could take from me. A movement. Second Shot became a chain. Free schools, paid mentorships, job training programs. Run by people like me. For people like me. And in every classroom, on every wall, I posted one line. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. I'm not angry anymore. Not at Jason, not at Claire, not even at my mother. They were right about one thing. I didn't belong, not in the places they tried to trap me in, because I was never built to serve tables. I was built to build empires.